Okay, great. Let's see. Okay, we're all here. Great. All right, so today I am going to read you this story that is called Family Pictures, Cuadros de Familia. It is a bilingual book written in Spanish and English. I'm going to read the English version today since I know that we're all English speakers. It is written by Carmen Lomas Garza. Can you hear me okay? Actually, I have a sort of emergency at my house the professor's aware of, but I had to be outside. So if you can't hear me or anything, the recording is bad, just let me know or put it in the chat. Thanks. Okay. So, can anybody tell me what they notice in the picture? I don't know if we're supposed to actually have people answer, but I totally welcome it if someone feels comfortable to. Anyone? Okay, so.
I figured we were going to be participating. I see people eating, it looks like.
Okay, good. Right, you see people eating, and then with the title, Family Pictures, what does that make you think the book might be about?
About our family.
Okay, great.
Our background.
Family.
Okay, so you're using the clue of the background, the title, these text features, and the image where you've both talked about things you've noticed in the art and making a prediction it's about the author's family. Could be about any family, right? But actually it is about the author's family. So this is a memoir, so an autobiographical book, a book about the author's life. And memoirs often deal with a certain period of time. So this book deals with Carmen Lomas Garza's childhood. So when we know the genre, like a memoir, we can expect to see about an author a period of time in their life. It's often very intimate, or it shares their feelings about these things going on in their life at the time. So as you notice also, she's the illustrator and the author. She's a well-known Mexican-American artist. So as I read the story, I want you to pay close attention to the pictures. Think about what you know, the genre, and continue to put clues together from the pictures and the text features, and think about what we're learning about her life and her feelings about her life, okay? So, look at one more text feature before we start reading the narratives. This is the author's note. She says, the pictures in this book are all painted from my memories of growing up in Kingsville, Texas, near the border with Mexico. From the time I was a young girl, I always dreamed of becoming an artist. I practiced drawing every day. I studied art in school, and I finally did become an artist. My family has inspired and encouraged me for all these years. This is my book of family pictures. So now we know from reading this, even though I had told you, right, that it is a book about her life, that we already know a little bit. She found her family inspirational. So let's get started. Let's see what sort of memories she shares. So, wow, Zoom is just not great. Or I don't know, this looks very pixelated. But can anyone tell me something they notice about this image, if they can make anything out of it? Let's see. Okay. What?
You're selling food?
Okay, yeah, they're selling food. I know it's really pixelated. They're selling food. And then if you look over another text feature throughout here, there's a heading or a subtitle to each section. And this one is called The Fair in Reynosa. So they're selling food at a fair, right? So my friends and I once went to a very big fair across the border in Reynosa, Mexico. The fair lasted a whole week. Artisans and entertainers came from all over Mexico. There were lots of booths with food and crafts. This one little section where everybody is ordering, and this is one little section where everybody is ordering and eating tacos. I painted a father buying tacos and the rest of the family sitting down at the table. the little girl is the father's favorite, and that's why she gets to tag along with him. I can always recognize little girls were their father's favorite. Okay, so as we look at these pictures too, I want you to raise your hand and let me know if you want to share a connection. If you have a connection particularly to your own life, something that this reminds you of that's similar or different, or to other texts, other stories you read, or something you know about the world, feel free to share. In some cases, I'll ask you. When we're done reading this, I'm not going to read the whole story. Like the last one, they're almost like memoirs, little seed stories within the book. So in order for you to be able to come up with your own and have time exploring that, I'm just going to read a few, and this book is available for checkout if you would like to read all of her mini memoirs. So keep that in mind as you do this. Start thinking of some ideas about your own, making any connections you can. Also, making connections help us understand text when we read them, not just this one. Oranges. I'll just let you look at the picture a minute. We were always going to my grandparents' house, so whatever they were involved in, we would get involved in. In this picture, my grandmother is hanging up the laundry. We told her that the oranges needed picking, so she said, "Well, go ahead and pick some." Before she knew it, she had too many oranges to hold in her hands, so she made a basket out of her apron. That's my brother up in the tree, picking oranges. The rest of us are picking up the ones that he dropped on the ground. Okay. Anybody have a connection?
I do actually. My grandparents used to live in Virginia, and when we would go visit them, my grandfather had a garden, and we would pick tomatoes and cucumbers. He also had a fig tree in the back. We'd pick figs, and then blueberries too. So he had a wide variety of fruit and vegetables that we would pick. Us, the grandkids, with our grandfather. So
that's amazing. Yeah, it's similar. I wish I had that. Wow, blueberries are my favorite. I'm jealous of your experience. Great. So you have a really similar connection to her, the one that she depicts in this picture. Okay. For dinner, para la cena. I'll let you look at this picture for a minute. Can anyone make a prediction based on this picture and the title for dinner?
They're going to have chicken.
Indeed. Good. Okay. This is my grandparents' backyard. My grandmother is killing a chicken for dinner. My grandfather is in the chicken coop, which you can see here, trying to catch another chicken. Later, my family will sit down to eat Sunday dinner chicken soup. That's me in the blue dress with my younger brother, Arturo. He was so surprised by the scene that he started to spill his snow cone. We had never seen anything like that before. I knew my grandparents had always reared chickens, but I never knew how the chickens got to be soup. Is anybody noticing a pattern here so far, and so like a repeating theme, something that several of these have dealt with? That's okay, we'll keep going.
Food.
Right, food. Yeah. Okay, so let's do one. Let's do this one. This one is called Picking Nopal Cactus. In the early spring, my grandfather would come and get us, and we'd all go out in the woods to pick nopal cactus. My grandfather and my mother are slicing off the fresh, tender leaves of the nopal and putting them in boxes. My grandmother and my brother Arturo are pulling leaves from the mesquite tree to line the boxes. I'll just show you all this for a minute. After we got home, my grandfather would shave off all the needles from each leaf of cactus. Then my grandmother would parboil the leaves in hot water. The next morning, she would cut them up and stir-fry them with chili powder and eggs for breakfast. So we have another one that has to do with food and family, right? Can anyone infer, using what you've read so far, clues from the photo and the text, infer how you think she feels in these moments, these memories with food preparation with her family?
Oh, they're unforgettable.
Okay. Unforgettable. Anything else? So when you say
I think it's
unforgettable,
a warm memory, a happy memory.
okay, and why do you think it's happy?
Just because of the fact that she's spending that time with her grandparents, you know, whether it's picking the oranges or here with her grandfather right now. I think it's just, you know, and again, I think that's a connection for me. So.
Okay, great. So it reminds you of your own life, and you both said they're unforgettable. She keeps showing them, right? She's choosing to depict them. And even in the text where she says the fresh, tender leaves of the nopal, you get the feeling that how delicious and the details that she remembers, right? But she doesn't ever come out and say this was so much fun or anything like that. So something to keep in mind when you tell your own. There are all these simple little moments. And she also, in each one, they often talk about how it's one memory, but it's something they did a lot, right? Okay, so here's one not about food, unless you eat shark, which I have eaten shark before, but I don't think that's the point. It says hammerhead shark. And if you can see here, this picture is about the times my family went to Padre Island in the Gulf of Mexico to go swimming. Once when we got there, a fisherman had just caught a big hammerhead shark at the end of the pier. How he got the shark to the beach, I never found out. It was scary to see because it was big enough to swallow a little kid whole. Raise your hand if you've been to South Padre or another beach in South Texas. Ooh, everyone, okay.
Yep.
So there's another connection, right? And another idea. So I'm gonna skip ahead. I'm just gonna read y'all some of the titles. I think in the interest of time, I'm skipping them, but also because sometimes we read as writers and creators, right? And in the library, we also create. We like to create, consume knowledge, recreate knowledge, be critical, creative, etc. Right? So I want you to think of this like writers and illustrators, creators. So we're using these as seed ideas, and then we're going to, in a moment here, create our own. But I want to share the subtitles with you, and you can get an idea. This isn't a sequential story, but I definitely encourage you to check out her book from the library. Okay, Rabbit. And here's another photo. You can see this one is also, it is about a time her grandmother prepared rabbit to eat. Joseph and Mary seeking shelter at the end. Okay. She talks about the nights leading up to Christmas and their familiar and cultural traditions around that time. Making tamales, describes a tamalada. That was actually the cover art that you looked at. And then I'm going to read you the last entry. Oops. Here we go. Where'd it go? I lost the spot. Here we go. Beds for dreaming. So if you see, there's two figures up on a roof. My sister and I used to go up on the roof on summer nights and just stay there and talk about the stars and the constellations. We also talked about the future. I knew since I was 12 years old that I wanted to be an artist. And all those things that I dreamed of doing as an artist, I'm finally doing now. My mother was the one who inspired me to be an artist. She said she made our beds to sleep in and have regular dreams, but she also laid out the bed for our dreams of the future. And that's the end of her book. Any thoughts on what she said? What is she saying with this metaphor? Well, she says her mom literally made her bed, but also would make the bed for her dreams of the future. Can anybody tell me more about how you think she feels about her mom, given the end of the book?
Like her mom was.
I would say that she thinks her mom is supportive of her.
Okay, she was supportive of her. What did you say, Hillary?
That she could maybe be whoever she wanted to be. She had all the skills, and she could dream to dream, or whatever she wanted to be.
Right. So from the book, we drew different imprints. You saw that you guys mentioned the recurring theme of food and family, and she seems happy. It seemed like a huge family, right? Like they're very united. And in the end, she draws back, that ties back to the author's note. She said her whole family inspired her, but then she talks about her mom really inspired her to be this artist. So we get some of those memoir characteristics. Even though she has simple descriptions, right? You can see her feelings about these memories. And at the end, she reminds us of why they were so important, how they made her who she is today. So without further ado, so you all have your iPads out. And as you see, you can see that I've shared this Padlet with you, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here on the overhead. Let me share my screen here. Okay, share screen. So, well, as I said, you're going to be creating pick a meaningful seed memory. If you can, something small, but it's up to you. You're going to have 15 minutes to create it. We're not really going to spend 15 minutes, but so pick a seed memory. And as you see on the table, you have things that you have colored paper. You can create papel picado, the style art that she uses in her art. And here you cut out paper. You have pens, pencils, paints, crayons, all of our makerspace type drawing, coloring supplies. So just remember a little image. I made this little one. I didn't have all the supplies you guys have. I would maybe like to be more colorful. But so I drew this. It's my father, myself, and my brother. Can anyone tell what we're doing?
We're fishing.
We're fishing, right. So I tried to think of a seed memory like them. I thought about a time we always used to go to Mexico Beach in Florida. I'm from Georgia. When I was a kid, but I remember the first time I went fishing. So I drew that. So you will create your art piece with the stuff you have in front of you in any way that you want. And then you will go to, I'm trying to share here we go. No. Having trouble sharing my screen. Here we go. No. Okay, you can see my screen now, right? Here we go. Can everyone see the Padlet? Okay, great. So I just want to show you before you get started so that if you finish earlier, you may go ahead and post. Otherwise, I'll give you a reminder when you have 5 minutes left that you need to wrap it up and start posting on the Padlet. So as you can see here, I uploaded that picture. So what you can actually do with all your Padlets is you click on this camera button. It says photo booth. That opens up and you just, as we've used our iPads before, you just take a picture. You may also draw on here. I would rather use the materials you have, but that's my personal. You are absolutely welcome to use the draw tool. As you just move your finger around. As you can see, my drawing is a lot more abstract, but you're welcome to use it. And there are colors, and I think depending on what you do, maybe if you found a shark, you could do your hammerhead. Wow, it's really an abstract hammerhead shark. So you can draw something, you go up here to save. And as you see that, I have it set up so all your names will show up, but these iPads aren't actually assigned to you. So even though mine says my name, you're gonna wanna write your name right here, okay? Otherwise we won't know who did it. And we're gonna share these. So these are gonna be in your Seesaw, in your classroom, so you'll be able to see them, your classmates, your teacher, and your parents only, all right? Okay, so once you have the image, the other part, and I should add in this story, if you were to actually, if we have more time, but you're welcome to, there's a little note at the back where the editor explains that this was actually made by Carmen first creating an image of a memory, and then she talked about it to the editor, and then they just wrote that text. And you can sort of see this just sort of a description of what's going on, but it still conveys her feeling. And the images tell the story as well or more so than the text. So we're gonna do the same thing. So you'll do your little image, and then afterwards, as you see here, you can select voice. and you'll record. Everyone can see this, right? Where it says, okay, cool. So I'll say, I drew a picture of my father and I in Mexico Beach. I was 6 years old and it was my first time that I went fishing. My dad hooked the bait on the line. Well, anyway, you get the idea. I'm not going to use up all our time, but so here's my recording. In a few minutes, just describe what's in your picture, a few minutes or less, and then that's it. In the corner, it says playback and save. So if you want to, you can listen to it. So I'll say, no, I drew a picture of my father and I in Mexico. I've decided I like that. I save. And it shows up over here. Now, if you notice, if I take a picture, it won't let me add a recording there too. So just make sure that you write your name on both. I will be walking around this time and I can answer questions. I'm more than happy to help remind you or if you have any issues with this, but the Padlet platform works really well. I've never had any problems with it. So that's what we're gonna do right now. When you're done or if you finish early, you can go to this column. We always have an exit ticket, so you know how this worked. Today I learned. You may type one thing you learned today, or you may record it, all right? And I will remind you about that last step when we have a couple minutes left before we go, but I'm just letting you know now. So go ahead, pick whatever items you want at your table and you may begin creating. Okay. All right, so fast forward to them finishing. So I will walk around and circulate at this point, help everybody upload. And now I'm gonna talk to you again as if you're my students. So we're wrapping up. Okay, so, and this of course I would have reminded you and made sure you upload them. So these are the minutes actually after that. All right, so now that you've uploaded all of you and recorded your bit, please remember that you have access to this at home. I left the wall open. You are more than welcome to include all the memories you want. You can continue to add to this board. You can continue to, work on the same piece or other pieces. Right now, though, we're just going to take 5 minutes. I wish we could share as a whole group, but we're going to do what we often do so that everyone gets to share in the amount of time we have is you're going to go around your groups of 5 and you're going to share with each other at your table. Just really quickly, you're going to show what's on your Padlet and either play the recording or talk a little bit about it. But keep in mind, too, you can always see each other's work online in Seesaw if you have access to Wi-Fi, et cetera, at home. So now go ahead and share in your groups, and I'll be walking around and listening to you share your stories. All right. That was wonderful. I enjoyed listening to all of your mini memoirs and seeing your works of art. Before we go, I also want to recommend some other books to you quickly. So if you like family pictures, I have some other actually bilingual books. Some of them are actually in Spanish, English. I'm actually a bilingual teacher. I'm going to be a bilingual librarian, for those of you who know. So and I am expected to teach in Spanish. So I sort of chose books. There are English versions if any of you do want to share these with your class. But all right, I'm going to quit breaking character. Okay, so here's some other books that you might like. This one, Soñadores. It's Dreamers in English. It won the Pura Belpré Award in 2018, I believe, which is a award named after the first Latina librarian, I believe. And this one won for illustrations. So Family Pictures also, it didn't win, but it was an honor book. So that means it was one of the few selected and then a different book won. So they have that in common. But this is also it's also a memoir. And it's about the authors. She's also an artist, an incredible artist. She scans in art that she created of mixed media with paint, collage, photos. She has actual work from her things she created as a child, and some of it's new. And she talks about her story of she and her child emigrating from Mexico to the U.S. And actually she talks about how she found a home and felt at home in a library where she began to learn English through they immerse themselves in books and stories. And it's a really great book. This is another, this is not a memoir, but it is realistic fiction and it's autobiographical partially. That is that the author, some of it is sort of made up, but she used sort of memories of she and her grandfather. It's based on her life, sort of, it is to tell this story. And it's also just incredibly beautiful artwork. And she talks about times with her grandfather, some things memories, things he taught her, and or the character, right? But she said some come from her life. Another one is Mi papi tiene una moto, or my papi has a motorcycle. So this also comes in English. And this is also a memoir about the author. She's not the illustrator, but the art is really amazing. And just her and her father is another one from childhood with just little small seed memories. One more, let's see. And then this one. This is another one that is realistic fiction that's partially autobiographical. So whole thing isn't true, but Juana and Lucas, the author is Juana Medina, and it is about a girl named Juana who, like the author, is from Bogota, Colombia. And she really does talk about some of the things she likes. So she uses this fictional character of Juana, but it's sort of, a lot of it is really based on her own experience, just not entirely. Some people even use memoir to describe, they allow some things to be made up. The memoir autobiography line is a blurry one, it depends, but this one is categorized as fiction. And it also won the Pura Belpré Award. So I have all these sitting out. I highly recommend you take a look at them. Some of them we even have 2 copies because they're new and award winners. And then finally, if we have a few minutes left, I don't think at this point that we would have a few minutes left, to be honest. I included an extension of my lesson. I feel like the lesson is really complete the way it is, and I would want the students to have time to do things. But should they have finished, I have a series of Pearl Tree, if you've used that, with sites marked on papel picado, on the author on Carmen López Garza, because she has a lot of art, not just in this book, and also the Yuyi Morales, who has some really incredible artwork. So that was my extension if there were time. But I would also share it with the kids, just like the Padlet. It would be accessible because they use Seesaw, from their Seesaw in their classroom. So I always would encourage them to, if they have Wi-Fi, if they have a computer at home, they can look at those resources if they want. I believe, does anybody have any questions? I'm trying to think of it. Okay, sorry, this is very weird, like fake.